Hey, hi, how you doing? This is Matt with So Cincy. Welcome back to the Bible Department podcast where we are reading through the New Testament. I gotta admit, it is a sad day today. I woke up this morning, looked at Twitter/X, and discovered that famed and beloved legend of the Pittsburgh Penguins announcer Mike Lange has passed, which is really, really sad. Mike Lange was unique as a announcer. Just the different types of like quotes and sayings that he would have when the Penguins would score goals was unlike anything else you would experience. Like just some of the stuff he would say, like my favorite was buy Sam a drink and get his dog one too. Scratch my back with a hacksaw. What was another one he would say? Smile. He's smiling like a butcher's dog. And another a good one. Make me a milkshake, Malkin. So there's a Penguins player named Benny Malkin. So, but yeah. So Mike Lange passed, which is really, really sad. So, yeah. And I think it's something to behold when there's a big game tonight. I think is that tonight? Yeah, it's Thursday. The Americans versus Canadians in the Four Nations. So that'll be really good TV. Hopefully it's on Disney Plus so that I can watch it because we don't have cable. Does anyone have cable anymore? Do you have cable? Let me know if you have cable in the comments. Anyways, so getting back into it, we are at 5daybiblereading.com. If you want to follow along with us to read through the Bible, we are reading through the New Testament, but they have a plan to get you through the whole entire Bible, so you can do that. And we're going to be in Hebrews 4. Yesterday, I wanted to stream, but it is freezing cold outside. It's been like consistent 13, 14, 15 degrees outside, and it's just been freezing. And my bones were just like, nah, man, you're pushing 40. You are going to stay in bed and get warmed up. So that's what I was doing yesterday. So apologies for no stream yesterday, but as always, eventually we'll get caught up. All right, this music is real sad. Yeesh. I don't know if I like this. Let's change this up a little bit. There we go. A little bit better. A little background music as we read through. But like I said, we're going to be in Hebrews 4. And we're going to be there today. And life will be good. So let's go ahead and read Hebrews 4 coming from the New Living Translation. And so here's what Hebrews 4 says. It says, God's promise of entering his rest still stands. So we ought to tremble with fear that some of you might fail to experience it. For this good news that God has prepared this rest has been announced to us just as it was to them. But it did them no good because they didn't share the faith of those who listened to God. For only we who believe can enter his rest. As for the others, God said, in my anger I took an oath, they will never enter my place of rest. Even though this rest has been ready since he made the world, we know it is ready because of the place in the scriptures where it mentions the seventh day. On the seventh day, God rested from all his work. But in the other passage, God said, they will never enter my place of rest. So God's rest is there for people to enter, but those who first heard this good news failed to enter because they disobeyed God. So God set another time for entering his rest, and that time is today. God announces through David much later in the words already quoted. Today, when you hear his voice, don't harden your hearts. Now, if Joshua had succeeded in giving them this rest, God would not have spoken about another day of rest still to come. So there is a special rest still waiting for the people of God. For all who have entered into God's rest have rested from their labors, just as God did after creating the world. So let us do our best to enter that rest. But if we disobey God as the people of Israel did, we will fall. For the word of God is alive and powerful. It is sharper than the sharpest two-edged sword, cutting between soul and spirit, between joint and marrow. It exposes our innermost thoughts and desires. Nothing in all creation is hidden from God. Everything is naked and exposed before his eyes, and he is the one to whom we are accountable. So then, since we have a great high priest who has entered heaven, Jesus the Son of God, let us hold firmly to what we believe. This high priest of ours understands our weaknesses, for he faced all the same testings we do, yet he did not sin. So let us come boldly to the throne of our gracious God. There we will receive his mercy, and we will find grace to help us when we need it most. That is Hebrews chapter 4. So, as we look at Hebrews 4, a couple things I want to reflect on, as there is a question of understanding the importance of Jesus, our high priest, and how knowing this understands our struggles give us confidence to approach God in prayer. So, a couple things. One, back at the beginning of chapter 4, God's promise of entering his rest still stands, so we ought to tremble with fear that some of you might fail to experience it. There is a difference between knowing God and fearing God. And so on TikTok, my TikTok algorithm, I like these awful, terrible, gossipy, heathen, not heathen. There's this show tonight called Tonight's Conversation. I don't know. It's messy. I enjoy it, and I catch it like here and there. Anyways, so there was this woman on, and she was being just raggedy, and the one panelist asked her, like, she's like, do you have a relationship with God? Like, it was really weird, something to ask her that, I thought. And the woman responded by saying, like, yeah, like, I know God as I'm being messy in this activity that I'm doing. And the panelist responded back with was like, yeah, you know God, but you don't fear God. And she goes on to say, like, if you feared God, your behaviors would be totally different. Like, how you live this life would be completely different. And so there's this idea of what does it mean to fear God. And I asked ChatGPT, I'm like, ChatGPT, give me some examples of what it means to fear God. And so one of the things it said was standing outside during a massive thunderstorm. You feel the power of nature. You're not terrified in a way that makes you run in panic, but you stand in awe of the storm's power. And so the other night, when this was Saturday into Sunday, I mentioned it in a previous episode. We had like crazy thunderstorms here in Cincinnati, and they felt like right above our house. Like, I'm laying in bed, the first thunderstorm, like it woke me up, and it was loud. And I was like, oh, it's storming outside. Okay. And this is probably like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. And then I'm like laying down, and then another thunder hit, and it shook the house. I'm like, oh, that's unsettling. Like, that's unsettling. Like, if you've been in a storm where it shakes everything from the foundation, the walls, the windows, like everything's like that's something that makes you feel very, very small. Very, very small. It's like, oh, okay, like you're serious. Like, I respect the power and the authority that you have. So that's the first thing I wanted to address. But it's a good thing to respect the power and the authority, because at the end here in verse 15 and 16, it says, so then since we have a great high priest who has entered heaven, Jesus, like the great high priest, the Son of God, let us hold firmly to what we believe. The high priest of ours understands our weakness, for he faced all the same testings we do, yet he did not sin. So let us come boldly to the throne of our gracious God. Let's talk about how he understands the weakness and faced all the same testings. I was reading Constable in preparation for this, his notes. And Constable said something that was just mind-blowing to me. He says about this, he says, as an illustration of the thoroughness of Jesus's temptations, imagine a large boulder on the seacoast. Since it does not move, it experiences the full force of every wave that beats against it. Smaller pebbles that the waves move around do not receive the full force because they yield to the force of the waves. Similarly, Jesus' temptations were greater than ours because he never yielded to them. By the same principle, he never yielded to them. So what he's saying is like if you have a giant boulder against it's going to experience every wave that we do as teeny tiny pebbles. And so when I read that, I'm like, oh, okay, that's a good way to put it. And so when we begin to understand now that Jesus has experienced the full temptation of every sin, but did not give into it, like, he gets it. He experiences the same temptations. Like, it makes sense to him. And so now, verse 16, we can come boldly to the throne of our gracious God. Because we understand, Jesus felt the full force of temptation and yet did not sin. There was no sin in him, so he could not sin. We can now experience this this grace that he has for all of us. And that's essentially it, man. It's good stuff. I love it. Yeah, you can approach God boldly. Like, he wants your stuff to help you see through the day, and we give him glory for it. That's it. That's Hebrews 4. So thanks for hanging out today. If you like this video, please subscribe to the YouTube here. If you're watching this on YouTube, we're at 88 subscribers, so help us. We just need 12 more people to help us get over that hump to get to 100 subscribers, and I'll be content for life, because I'll say I can have 100 subscribers. And where we go from there, I don't really care. But I just want that 100 subscribers because it's a milestone of mine. Yeah. And for those of you listening on Apple and Spotify and everywhere else this might be, we appreciate you too. Love you guys. I'm Matt again with So Cincy. Reach out to us everywhere at So Cincy on all social media platforms. And we'll talk with you soon. Hope you have a good one. Bye. Adios.